Nice to meet you.
As I stated, I wouldn't know anybody really.
Shaking with the tag on. No worries. No worries at all. No, I have met a lot of people in 2 weeks. It's been very interesting. Very, so, thank you.
Put my eyeballs to that anchor yet.
Evening, everyone. We'll call the school board to order at 7 p.m. That's the roll call, please.
Jack Davia. Don Woodward.
Here.
Mark Sherwood.
Here.
Lee Vincent.
Here.
Sean Romero.
Here.
Emma Corrigan. Here.
All agree, and Savage, all excused.
Okay.
Yes. Everyone stand.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Student staff and family.
So, Mr. John Vacarezza is here tonight. He's going to do a very brief presentation on what's coming up for Mental Health Week. Yeah, both at the high school level and maybe across the district. So, John?
If I can go through there. Do you have any questions on that sheet?
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. So next week, we're doing, a little bit on the secondary campus here, we're doing Mental Health Awareness Week. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we decided last year, a number of teachers came together and they pulled together to have a speaker talk to the students and staff about the topic. And then this year, they've really taken initiative to make it into an entire week, is what they're looking around, centered around the ideas of mental health, well-being of the students, staff, and just different ways to also bring the community together in a different fashion. So we're looking at the 15th through the 19th is going to be the week. It's right before we go on vacation. It's a time, for students, it's a high stress time as they have. You're going to be looking at in a couple weeks, they deal with AP testing. They're going to deal with the joy or sorrow of college admissions. Okay, you're dealing with the end of the April time period, and it's a time when you really want to have some focus on the well-being of the students that's going forward. So we've got a number of things that we're going to be doing. There's events, dress-up days that are going on every single day for the high school campus. The library is going to be hosting a number of events. I'll be showing them a little bit more, but that's just a quick list of everything that they're doing. They're going to do a dress-up day, kind of in the idea of Spirit Weeks. They're doing dress-up days, whether it's dress-up Marathon Monday, wear your blue and gold. Represent a club or organization or team that you're on. That's going to be on Tuesday. What's your favorite outdoor activity? Being outdoors is one of the best things for one's mental health. So whatever's your best outdoor activity, dress up as far as that. The only thing is we're saying, sun tanning is not your favorite outdoor activity. We're at that one. Then we're talking about music, which is another outlet. And we're going to have, dress up with your favorite band shirt. And then the final one is everybody's wearing green, which is it's the color for Connor's Climb. Okay, so we're all going to support that on that Friday. We have it right here. As you can see, some of the activities, the library has activities going on all week, whether it's promoting different relaxation activities or you're doing wellness bingo, get off the phone for an hour at night. Try to, have a conversation with your parents, just talk with them. Stop by the library, there's going to be yoga offered to students at different times. So there's just a lot of activities that are going on just to promote community and help the students out. And then we go to, all right, so Marathon Monday, we talked about it. That's the sports gear. We got some major events also going that are also open to the community. Tuesday is one of those events. We have a guest speaker coming in. His name is Ed Garrity. He's a motivational speaker. He also talks about mental health. He's been doing this out of New Hampshire for the past 20 years. He's very, very well known. And he's going to be doing his presentation to the high school students, to the middle school students. And at night, we are having a community forum that's open to anyone in the community. Please come, and he is going to be speaking to the members of the community. Also that night, we're going to be highlighting the different clubs and organizations of the high school so that people can get an awareness of what's going on with the various clubs. You're talking about 40 of them, and they're kind of, highlighting a couple members of each club and organization that night. So that's a big night for the community. Please come and just enjoy and listen to the speaker. It's open to all as far as that.
Awesome.
On Wednesday, there we go, that's just speaking about it. On Wednesday, after school for the students and the staff on the secondary campus, there's going to be a wellness fair. Where it's not a huge 90 or club organization wellness fair. We're going to have roughly 30 different organizations throughout the community coming, tell them what they're offering, different things that are offered to students, whether it also is jobs, and just different opportunities that students and staff can have. And that's going to be taking place after school in the high school cafeteria from 2:15 to 3:30. All right. Thursday, what we're going to be having is we have our day is the music day. Then what we are doing is we have 5 different food trucks coming to the campus. They're literally coming here, and we're going to have our CAF opened. And again, this is about the community. Please come, check out a couple of the games. We have a girls lacrosse game going on. They also we're coupling that with it's the Play for the Cure, which is linked with Project Hope to raise for cancer awareness. So that is going on from 4:30 to 6:30. All the food trucks are there. And then at night, the Milkmen are going to do their improv show that they do all the time. And a portion of their profits from that night are all going to Connors Klein as well. And we're concluding on Friday, okay? And what we are going to do a 5K on campus for the high school students. And this is, it's my 5K. We'll have some students walking. Some students will be running. Some students will do abbreviated 5Ks because it's my 5K. It's kind of one of those things where maybe it's not, you're not going to do all 5 miles, but you're going to, or 5 kilometers, you're going to do a number of times around the track. But we're opening that up. And afterwards, there's going to be some ice cream for all the students of the high school as well. And this is to kind of formalize kickoff the Connors Klein anti-suicide campaign.
It's a lot for Joe.
So this has been spearheaded by the staff members, the 2 staff members who are not able to be here tonight, with Katie Murphy and Mark Pisquini. They've kind of been running with this, organizing this, and then there's a ton more people. If I mention too many, I'll forget so much more. But they really have been the ones, it's been staff that really got on board and are trying to figure out kind of just an awareness of what's going on in high school and awareness of what the students are doing. And the biggest thing of all is to kind of get an understanding of what's out there, what the students are dealing with, and how we can help them, live their lives a little bit better and be in a better place.
Thank you and your team.
Nice job, Joe.
Does anybody have any other comments they wish to say, questions? Excuse me. Thank you. Right, thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Please show, it's a good time.
We do not have our student rep. He's not going to be here tonight, so we are at delegates and individuals. I have 4. If you have came in late and you wish to speak, there's a blue form over there. You need to sign your name to it, and then it needs to get to me. If I butcher your name, I am very sorry. But the first one is John Maletti. John Maletti.
Can we switch that up?
Yeah.
You don't mind?
Oh, hold on.
Let's try and have them
Backwards. No, got one.
John Downey wants to go first. There we go.
Okay.
I mean, please.
Sorry, I had a number, and that one was number 1. So
Thank you, no worries.
yeah, no worries.
I think we
Yeah.
can shuffle.
Yeah.
He was here first. I was here.
I'd like to thank the board members and recognize them for volunteering their valuable time. I've learned a lot about the enormous efforts required and appreciate their efforts. Last week, I requested Mr. Krieger and Mr. Sherwood to meet with me. I was granted time with both. We were able to meet and have appropriate conversations with proper boundaries. Both gentlemen listened to my concerns. In my opinion, the consensus of both conversations is clear. Concise communication between the school board superintendent and the taxpayers will foster a better understanding of future budgets. Due to the proposed 2024 budget, I attended my first SAU deliberative session. After witnessing and hearing the conversations, I felt compelled to start a new journey and be involved to enact changes. I understand the items I'm bringing to the board's attention today will take time and possibly policy changes. I'm not here to harm, threaten, slander, or speak of any individual specifically. I come here today to let the school board know the taxpayers are paying attention and make a statement for consideration of issues found that I feel need to be discussed further by the board. I have buried myself diving into documents from the past to present. I have identified items I feel should be reviewed. Below is a list of items I speak of and would welcome the opportunity to have a back and forth question and answer anytime with my school board, reps, superintendent, or interested party. 1, the ever-increasing budget is unsustainable. Change must happen. The taxpayer burden is at a breaking point. The unencumbered CIP balance. This should be left in the unassigned fund as a balance or surplus. These monies should not be spent on small projects under the radar. The lease payments of $2.1 million. This should not be assigned at all. It should be returned to the taxpayer, every penny, before it is spent down. The original approved lease had a list of specific projects to be paid for by the lease. There are numerous projects being paid for from the lease money, not on the specific approved list. There are numerous projects being moved from the CIP and lease and vice versa. The original list should be strictly adhered to. Many projects have been moved in and out of budgets, confusing which fund the money is allocated from. The construction committee, originally a focus committee, was formed for one purpose only: to oversee the lease projects. This has not been adhered to. The Timberlane Regional School District construction policy should be reviewed for proper handling from desk to completion. Why would Timberlane Regional change wording for the bid advertisement on the Timberlane website to state in the policy that is not required to be posted on the TRSD website? I would hope we want as much exposure for RFPs as possible. The school board has the authority to change the language for appropriate advertisement, quote, immediately by vote without first and second read. I'd suggest it be changed to advertise on Dodge reports or similar listing outlets. The 10K, 30K, and 50K thresholds need to be clearly defined. The threshold of non-RFP purchases or award of monies was lowered to help purchasing during COVID. This appears to have created a loophole for larger projects to be done as a separate line item. The school board has the authority to rectify this immediately back to the $20,000 threshold by vote without a first and second read. The 8/17/23 school board minutes stated spreadsheet of all projects will be produced. Did this happen? An RTK will be submitted if it's needed. Money transfers between funds. There's an enormous amount of money transferred between funds. Although explainable, there is an appearance of a shell game moving money around. 2023 TRSD audit. It's generally stated in the independent audit, no opinion is given on the way money is spent, whereas the task is to look for proper accounting and procedure only. The audit does not give opinions if the money was well spent. In closing, I feel oversight of all expenditures need to be better. A review of project and purchase, whether talked about, proposed, designed, in progress, previously budgeted, or completed. Special attention to the specific funds used for each project. I feel a huge benefit could be had if the superintendent, school board, and general public were to start communicating on a regular Q&A informal setting. This could help immensely with how the taxpayers perceive the extremely high budget is being allocated. Perception is reality to the taxpayer unless transparency exists. Imagine a district working in harmony with the public, how strongly it would benefit the education of our children. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Nola,
Sorry, if I may.
Yeah.
I'd like actually enter the statement into the record for
Just
meeting
give it
minutes
to
if
Linda.
possible, please?
Just give it to Linda, she'll do that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public one.
All right, Nova?
I was gonna call you to give us some terms.
That's all right. Everyone's gonna get a chance. We'll make sure.
I actually have, a need to discuss a specific policy. I have a copy of it, would it be helpful? You guys have a copy of it or not?
So you can talk to us, but we're not gonna go back and forth discussing this.
I'm not suggesting.
You can either hand it out if you wish, or we
I
can,
just thought it might be easier, that's all.
whatever you
No,
wish. Whatever you wanna do, ma'am.
Okay.
I believe Dawn's gonna help you out here.
Thanks, sir.
They gave Mr. Downing 4 minutes and 30 seconds, so I'll do you the same. Okay.
Oh, I won't need that much time.
I'm just, so everyone's fair.
Yeah, no, that's fair, thank you, I
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
Time is all yours, ma'am, go ahead.
Good evening. I would like to refer to the December 21st, 2023 minutes, page 8, beginning with other business. And I quote, "On behalf of the school board," please forgive me if I say your name wrong, Mrs. Knudsen informed the public that Mr. Christopher Kellen has announced his decision to leave the district at the end of the 23-24 school year. He will not return to his position as superintendent, which permits the school board to begin the process of immediately hiring a new superintendent. Mr. Krieger and Mrs. Allaire will continue in their roles as interim superintendent and acting assistant superintendent to at least the end of the 23-24 school year. Now we refer to policy CCA, Administrative Succession Plan. I'm assuming the section titled Plan of Permanent Leadership Change applies here. In the policy, and I quote, "Where the succession of the superintendent can be planned, the board will initiate an internal district SAU-wide assessment of the district's SAU's administrative needs, desires, and qualities of the new superintendent. Such assessment will begin as soon as possible upon the board's learning of the planned permanent leadership change. Upon approval of a successor by the board, the superintendent shall develop and implement a transition plan to orientate the selected superintendent to all duties and responsibilities of the superintendent and ensure continuity of all ongoing district strategies and goals." Okay, the school board announced Mr. Kellen's resignation was December 2023, and now it's April. I have not seen or heard of any plans for permanent change of leadership. I have not seen or read any action items of any kind. No job posting, no subcommittees, no discussion. The end of the school year is less than 3 months away. Why is policy CCA being ignored? The public has always been aware of the change of superintendent. I was around when Dr. McDonald retired in June 2007. The school board promoted Assistant Super Richard LaSalle as his replacement. In 2012, Earl Metzler took over as superintendent. All these changes were done publicly, and the minutes can be found on the Timberlane website. I'm wondering why policy is not being followed here. I hope by next meeting, the public will be informed on the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Nola.
John Letty?
I'm good.
Sure?
Yep.
Okay. You don't wanna speak at all, or you don't wanna know?
No, I
Okay.
don't want to see you.
Okay, all right, just double check. Doug
Joanna.
Jelino, sorry.
The arthritis.
No worries.
My name's Doug Jelino. I live on 73 Back Road, Danville, New Hampshire. I've been a resident 5.5 years. I moved up here from Massachusetts, primarily to get a quieter place to live in, maybe less taxes. Well, the tax part hasn't panned out for me. My history is serving on 2 school committees at the same time, and that is Kentucky Regional School District and Whittier Protect. So doing both school committees at the same time. Was a part of a lot of changes with those committees. You got to pardon me, I won't speak as eloquently as your first speaker. It's not going to happen with me. So, one of the things we did on the committee is we were very transparent with the communities when we did our budgets. We would send the school committee members with proposed budgets into the communities to talk with the people that it was going to affect. That could be town business managers, finance directors, selectmen. And ask them, how will you absorb this? Will this be something that you could take the impact of? Will it negatively affect your community? Now, all that talk that I'm talking about led to one thing in both school districts. We never went beyond 2% increase. It was unbearable for the towns. It would cost police layoffs, reductions in fire departments. The DPWs would be negatively impacted. So we wanted to be transparent and financially responsible and be a partner with them rather than pull their money away from them. Now I come here and I'm looking at your school budgets. This year was a 9% increase. Last year was 5%. I'm shocked that it was that much. I can't believe it. So I do a little math. I said, all right, Massachusetts, pretty much everything is more expensive in Massachusetts. Okay? And I'm looking at the monies, and I'm saying, all right, where's this going? How much per student? You're over 26% more per student spending than Kentucky Regional School District in Whittier, Protect. Now, this is the full budget with all the state money coming back to the schools in Massachusetts and here. This is apples to apples that we're comparing. So I'm getting asked to meet people in town. They want to know how I feel about this. They're looking for people who are being impacted negatively with these increases. So I figured it was going to be just a community group of people, and it was more than that. And then they wanted to have a open meeting to anybody that wanted to come. And without even trying, 200 taxpayers showed up who are hurting. They're hurting at the seams of what the spending is going on in this community. On the group for this, there's a Facebook group. It's almost 400. So this is growing and growing and growing, which tells me that they're going to take action in some way, form, or another. They're going to either go after school committee member seats, do whatever they can at the state level. They may even challenge your articles of agreement. They're very upset with what's going on. So I wanted to come here and just put this on the table in hopes that maybe you're not aware of what's going on, how bad this is impacting the people. But they're beginning to organize. And in my past, I was on that side of the fence, and I would organize. And in both of my schools, we've replaced the superintendents. We've replaced the finance directors. This is all factual. You can look it up if you like. I was part of a committee and a new team of people that was tired of being told from the school how much we had to spend and how it was going to impact us. We made the changes necessary to show them how it had to be done. And again, 2% was the max. Now you could say I'm against spending. I get that a lot. I'm against spending. In Kentucky, finally outgrew their building, and they decided they wanted a brand new school. I was on the committee that applied to the state for a school of interest. That put our name on the list for the state to come out and look at our facilities and our student body and say, is this outdated, whatnot? They decided, yes, we needed a new school. We had zero trouble getting a $400 million school passed in that community. Because of our transparency and how fiscally responsive we were, the leaders of the communities knew how hard we were working and closely working with them. So when we went to the communities and said, look, this is where we're at, can we have your support? And hands down, we got that support. So there was a payoff for Pentucket for tightening their belts, keeping a low administration team. We didn't have a vice superintendent. We didn't even have vice principals. We removed them to save the community money. It was extremely tight spending at that time in their history. So the school committee with the new administration dialed it back, and they stayed on that march. And now they got a $400 million school. So I'm just saying to you, I wish you would look at your communities. I'm sure you're going to be hearing from a lot of them and understand that their taxes are going up beyond what they can pay. I've heard people say, I moved here, I was paying $6,000, they're up to $12,000 in 4 years. In 4 years, their taxes have doubled. When I look at the money the school was spending per student, they're up to $29,000. When other schools are at 23 and they have excellent reviews. People move into those communities to put their children into the Pentucket School District. This is part of the way it's always been. So it's not always about money, it's about the way you're spending the money. So at this point, I'm going to be quiet and let you continue as your meeting. I just want to introduce myself to you so you knew what it was. I suspect you'll be hearing a lot more from me with this group. Thank you.
First of all, I just want to thank everybody for coming here and participating and speaking. We all hear you. We all know that there are issues. This budget did not get big like this overnight, and it's not going to get fixed overnight, but we hear you and we want things to be better. Some systems putting in place are things that we don't have for transparency that we're currently working on so that it is more transparent because you as the taxpayer deserve that. But in saying that, we do have a couple motions that we're going to make before moving on to hopefully go through, and we'll let Mark do that.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion based on the acknowledgement that prudent financial management is essential for the success and sustainability of our district, especially at this time. Also recognizing that facilities purchases and projects constitute a significant investment of our resources, and that the superintendent is responsible for overseeing the efficient operation of our district. Essentially, the addition of the superintendent's oversight can help ensure the proposed purchases and projects do align with our strategic goals and budgetary constraints, some of which we've identified. So I would like to make a motion that all proposed facility purchases and projects equal to or exceeding $10,000 undergo thorough review and approval by the superintendent.
I'd like to second that, please.
As part of this review, the superintendent shall evaluate each proposed purchase or project based on its alignment with our district's strategic goals, budgetary considerations, and overall impact on operations. Prior to submission for the superintendent's review, the relevant department or responsible parties shall provide a detailed proposal outlining the scope, budget, timeline, and anticipated benefits of the purchase and/or project. Upon review, the superintendent shall approve, deny, or request modifications to the proposed purchase or project. Approved purchases or projects shall proceed according to our established procedure, processes, and product management protocols. The superintendent shall provide periodic updates to the board regarding approved purchases and projects, including progress updates and any deviations from those plans. We hear you. We have heard you. This is not a jet ski. It's a battleship carrier. we do hear you. We live in the communities as well. So thank you for coming out. The motion has been made.
And seconded by Ms. McCormick. Any other discussion? All those in favor? And then I believe we also have one more motion.
I'd like to propose another motion. I propose that the policy committee undertake a comprehensive review of all existing policies related to the purchase of goods and the expenditures of funds within our district. This review shall prioritize the enhancement of internal controls to ensure fiscal responsibility and accountability. Furthermore, the revised policy should aim to increase the transparency by providing greater visibility both to the school board and to the public regarding financial transactions.
Second that for discussion.
Seconded by Jack. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to offer up an amendment, and we just hand this out to folks.
That's correct.
You have one.
Or at least-
You have one.
I have one, yeah.
Justin? So this is policy JDK, and basically, I'm saying the same thing that we've already said. We've been bantering around JDK since October. And basically what I'm asking the board to do is to adopt that policy, and it would lower the original amount in that, the big policy from 20,000, from 50,000 to 20,000. It would, if you read along, it would, because to Kim's point, we get proposals, we don't have a chance to look at them, we don't get a chance to examine them. It would give us a 60-day, we would have to know 60 days in advance of any proposed project before it went out to bid, so we could have the time to look into it, to dig into it, decide whether we need it or not. And this would make things a heck of a lot more transparent. It would allow the board, we are the ones who determine what projects get done and what don't get done. That's our number one, well, it's our number two key responsibility besides the safety of the kids. It also in that, I incorporated 4 entities, which should be part of the RFP process: construction summary, work in progress, construction connection, Dodge report, and our school website. I also put in there that work cannot be, for lack of a better term, divided up to circumvent the policy, bifurcated, if that's the correct terminology to use. It does, as we discussed at our last meeting, give the superintendent the authority in case of an emergency to move forward. I think, Justin, you wanted language in there. It doesn't bind you to allow our chair to know, but I just think it's a good process that the chair knows and can update the board members in case a pipe blows up at 3:00 in the morning, or we lose the septic system or a boiler or something like that. Yeah, sorry. And what I also put in here was, and in light of some of the things that were said, like most of the school districts are at $20,000. I think we've seen over the last couple of weeks why that number wasn't raised to 50,000 or to keep up with the economic times. It really leaves the control of the board, it leaves the board in control of the work to be done around, to be supervised by the superintendent. By all means, he does that. What I added in here is support material is Concord, Sanborn, Wyndham, and Salem. Salem's at 15,000. I have to put my emotions aside a little bit and be sensible about this, because we don't want to overburden anybody. So I think 20,000 seems to be the number that the majority of the districts use. And for complete transparency, I stole Salem's policy and plugged in some changes and the word Timberlane, and they just went through a massive, between the new high school, the new middle school, a ton of work out there. And you know, I think this solves a lot of our problems. I would really appreciate this being adopted tonight, and I'm going along here. I would want first reading waived and us to adopt this tonight. And this way here, I can put my head on my pillow at night knowing that we're in control of and responsible for those things that we should be responsible for. Thank you, Katie.
Any other discussions? So,
One question, a clarifying question, Jack. For board approval 60 days in advance to move forward with an RFP, is the intention that we get it 60 days in advance, we approve it, then an RFP goes out?
Yeah,
My reason for questioning that is some of these projects, whether we validate them as being worthy or not, might depend on the exact cost. So I wouldn't want to inhibit getting an RFP when we don't know whether the cost of a particular project is going to be $30,000
well,
or
what I mean
$90,000.
is the administration would come to us and say, we want to build an Astrodome stadium. Don't worry, folks, that's okay. We want to, but we would have that 60 days to approve that going out to bid. At least that's the way I see it, but I'm open to any suggestions or ideas there.
what I would suggest is that while some of the stuff is really great, but this is a major change to some of the policies. I know you've given this out one time during the other year, but this is the first time I'm seeing it in a while, so I don't really have time to read it and digest it, although I do agree with controls, which I believe you and Shauna are already on the policy committee for that $20,000 reduction, and this would be one of the policies that's pulled. So we've already put one control with the previous motion. What I would suggest is take this to policy committee, really go through it, because again, that's one of the Mark's motion is to pull everything and to revamp it, put more of those controls. So while I think this is a great idea, I don't think we need to adopt it tonight. I think you just need to go to policy, do this. We've got one layer, and then whatever comes out of policy with a reduction of 20,000, which I totally agree with, and then we'll read it then.
Respectfully, Katie, to address that, I first brought this forward to the board in October. We had a policy meeting in November, which, turned into more of a negotiation. Then we brought it up again 2 weeks ago. And let's just be candid and honest about this. This is exactly what we need, and we all understand the reasons why at this exact moment. We can always amend it, we can always change it, but I don't feel comfortable right now. And in addition to that, what I would say is that, give me a second to gather my thoughts, is that we have bantered this around. This is very similar to the policy that we had about the in-district, not-for-profit stuff. We still haven't changed that first column, and as long as that first column stays there, the policy remains the same. And as long as, I don't care what we do here, the policy remains the same until we change it. We can change it if we want to. Shauna, you and I in the policy committee can work. If we want to fine tune it, we can revise it. But right now, under the current set of circumstances, I would appreciate this board supporting this motion to adopt this tonight. We adopt a lot of things and we waive a lot of things all the time. This isn't rocket science. This is just lowering the amount so we can gain control and protect the taxpayers just a little bit more, give them a little bit more control than what we currently already have. And so
Well, we already have one
it's
motion.
up to the board.
We already have one motion on the floor. So then what would be your amendment that you're wanting to do?
Excuse me?
What's your amendment that you're wanting to do to
The
Mark's?
amendment is to adopt this as written. And basically, we're saying the same exact thing.
No, I mean, you
Well,
are what you're
one is a
doing.
policy, one is an act.
So Mark's proposed is to have the policy committee in conjunction with the superintendent and for the board to pull all policies regarding to purchasing, bidding, everything, and do a deep dive and set controls. This is one policy that you've taken, written, gotten samples for, and just asking us to adopt it. So I understand everything you're trying to get at. I do, I understand. But unfortunately, it's two separate motions.
Okay, well, well, it's an amendment to his motion to do this instead of that. And I would also say that this came up at the last meeting. I mean, if we had accepted that at the last meeting, that would have been it and would have stayed at $50,000. And that was the motion at the time on the table, and circumstances change, the economy changes, everything changes. Things change to make me bring this forth tonight. So I want to be held accountable for those things I'm responsible for. And this board is responsible for the fiduciary activities of the district. And this gives us more control.
Does someone want to second his motion to his amendment? Does anyone want to second his amendment to the current motion?
I'd like to just ask Mark maybe a little bit more, since you know,
Yeah.
a little bit more about the nuance of the differences. and whether compatible with your goals.
When I read this, Jack, and we've had a number of discussions, I look at this as the bones and the framework of what it is that I am hoping to accomplish, and I hope this board is. I think you're spot on. My motion was for an overall review, of which I see this being a key element. I would be extraordinarily comfortable if we move forward as a board following my proposal, be it thumbs up or thumbs down, with charging the policy committee to looking specifically at yours and taking action on it next week. The reason is just that one question I brought up about the RFP. I wouldn't want something to be held up, RFP before or after the 60 days. If there is a project that we need to consider, we're given 60 days, we consider it, maybe we propose, approve it in 40 days, then the RFP goes out. That could be setting things, that could be delaying projects that we want to tackle in advance.
You want to change that date?
So what I'm saying, that just jumped out at me now.
I have a
I
question.
don't necessarily
that's
want
fine.
to change that date, but this is a question that just occurred to me.
I have a
Though
question.
I agree wholeheartedly with the spirit of what you're doing, and I'm hoping at the next policy meeting, the spirit it flashes put on the spirit. At this stage, I think we need to let policy committee, of which you're on, do its due diligence completely.
My question, I guess I have two questions for you. When you say all encompassing, what else really is there? I mean, this was very specific to a specific policy, so we're changing that one policy. What else do you see being incorporated into that beyond what you see
Everything,
here?
the way we report, the visibility we get from different departments, the visibility we get from suggestions from administration, how we send out RFPs, some of the things that you have touched on here, how we get our quotes, how visible they are. I'm looking for a complete review. We have done things well in the past, certainly not perfect as a current climate. It is, nobody has to touch on that any more than has already been touched on this evening. I think this is a key part of it. Again, this is the bones that we, put the flesh on. But I would be uncomfortable supporting this evening with views saying, hey, we may need to revise it next week. This is the purview of the policy committee. They're the ones who need to deep dive. I have infinite trust in those who are on it.
But the policy committee has reviewed this for 6 months. It's not like this hasn't been bantered and beaten to death. It has. And Mark, I respect you. I mean, we all respect each other. We're just trying to get the best process in place. So I'm not here saying it's got to be my way or the highway. Although maybe it's a but
But there are other policies that may be impacted by this one, so.
and so I guess my question is, would the board be willing to adopt that temporarily for the time being? Because we've done this with other things until this policy is squared away. The $20,000 mark is the threshold before any work is.
I feel it would be comfortable to direct the super that as of right now, that anything that's over 20,000, equal to $20,000 or over should go out to bid. I think we can do that without adopting an entire policy.
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, Mark, does that?
So let's finish
feels like it
this
falls
and
in
then
line
we
with
can
what you were
direct.
trying to get at.
So, okay, so we have a motion, we have a second from Jack, any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained, okay, all right.
Task staff.
All right, so delegates and individuals is done. Can I get a motion to move the last 16 minutes of delegates and individuals to the end of the meeting?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Dawn seconded. All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. Okay. Approval of the minutes. We're going to do public minutes first for March 21st, and then we do have some non-public meeting minutes as well.
Yeah.
Can you?
Please.
Oh, you have to click agenda.
Then open it up.
And then
Everything.
make an amendment and screw my computer.
And we got another one over here, Ken, when you're done with that one.
Thank you.
Who's stuck to?
Mine.
That's
Nothing to do with this thing.
I did read it, girl.
Whenever everyone's had a chance, I know there's some computer glitches, but anyone's has a chance to look, I'll take a motion to accept the March 21st, 2024 meeting minutes.
Second.
So moved by Dawn.
Do you need them to be two separate motions or one? Because there's two separate. So it should be organizational meeting and regular.
Yeah, there's that. So this is the organizational meeting. So motion made by Dawn, second it was Kim. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Opposed and abstained. All right, and then the other one was the regular, no, we've got two. We've got the regular business meeting. We just did on the organization. Everybody gets a chance. We just need a motion to accept the regular board meeting minutes of March 21st.
So moved.
So moved by Shauna, seconded by Jack. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. Okay, and then you do have non-public meeting minutes in your hands. Look those over.
Make a motion to accept the non-public meeting minutes for March 21st, 2024.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? Actually gonna hold on a second. I actually feel like these could be unsealed minutes. Let's vote on this and then we will make a motion to unseal. Yeah. All right, so all those in favor to approve the non-public? Opposed and abstained, and then can I get a motion to unseal these meeting minutes?
So moved.
And then do I have a second?
Second.
No, it's fine. Motion made by Shauna, seconded by Kim. Any discussion? All those in favor? All those in favor of unsealing the minutes? Opposed and abstained. All right, pass those back, please. All right. Current business update on the ESSER return to school plan. I believe after this, there's only maybe one more time we'll have to do this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, Sandy.
So in your packet, you had an executive summary that Mr. Pedersen put together. Just as a reminder, this is a requirement that's connected to the ESSER grant. There are 3 different phases that came out of the COVID relief from the federal government. The last phase of that, which is the ESSER ARP ESSER 3 grant, that grant expires on September 30th of this year. And so a requirement of that is that school districts maintain and update every 6 months a plan on the safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services. So the only minor change since this was approved on October 5th of the previous year is the link that connects to what had been the CDC's guidance around COVID protocols, around isolation and quarantine information. That site is no longer up and running in the way that it had. So we have replaced that with a link to the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services website connected to COVID-19. And you have that link right there in your summary. Those updates have been made in the draft that's in your packet. And so to Katie's point, because this expires on September 30th and they require it to be updated every 6 months, it's April 8th today. This may be the last time that you are looking at approving this. So.
Does anybody have any questions for Sandy about this? Again, this is something because of those that we've had to approve every 6 months. Things have changed a little bit, like Sandy said. Seeing that there is none, does somebody want to make a motion to approve the April 4th, 2024 revised return to school plan?
So moved.
Motion by Mark, do I have a second? Second. Second by Ken, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And next is the instructional hourly calendar.
I'm going to speak to that as well. So in your packet, originally this summary was prepared for last Thursday evening. The meeting that was canceled, and on that day and the following day, as you're all aware, we had 2 additional snow days. We've brought this information to you before when we were looking at approval of next year's calendar. If you remember the 24-25 calendar, we talked a little bit about the Department of Education maintains guidelines around the approval of a calendar that contains either 180 instructional days or minimums of instructional hours that vary by level. And so in your summary, you'll see for half-day kindergarten, that would be the equivalent of 450 hours. For grades 1 through 6, that's 945 instructional hours and 990 instructional hours for grades 7 through 12. I did include for you guidance that connects to the ED rules, the Educational 306 rules that are guidelines for school approval and minimum standards. So there's guidance in those rules that help us to determine how to calculate how many hours we currently have built into our schedules at all levels. So following this guidance, it talks about passing time, how lunch factors into it, how recess factors into it, school advisory, and things of that nature. So we've mapped all of our schedules by school and by level. Based on those calculations, we exceed the maximum number of hours that we are allowed to count per day. So when we calculate hours, we go with the state maximums by level because we're actually above and beyond that. That said, I gave you an overview of the 4 snow days that we have had. 2 were back in January, and then most recently we had 2 last week. I did want to call your attention to, I had meant to include this at the time with 2 days. It didn't seem as significant. 3 of those days, the 2 dates in January and then last Thursday, were what we call A days on our AB block schedule that impacts both the middle school and the high school. So at the middle school, classes are of shorter duration. They're closer to 50 minutes each per day. But for unified arts classes, so for example, art, if a student has art on an A day, they would have missed art 3 times on these snow days, right? At the high school level, where we have a 90-minute block classes, in a science class, if you happen to have physics on an A day, you missed 3 90-minute blocks, which if we were to break that across a traditional schedule, is really more like 6 instructional days for traditional school days. So I just wanted to call your attention to that because it has been more heavily weighted to the A days. If you turn this to the back side, you'll see these are updated calculations based on the 2 additional days. So by level, you have a column that factors in the number of full days that we will have had by June 12th, which is the projected last day of school on the improved school calendar. How many hours per day we are allowed to count, that's the maximum. How many hours we've met thus far, plus early release days, which are less than the 6 or 5 3/4 hour days for elementary, middle, and high. So you'll see our total hours currently, the minimum required hours, and the calculation of how much we currently exceed, because we do exceed those minimums. A couple of things to think about as you're thinking about setting the final day of school and whether or not we will be making up these lost snow days. We staff, because contractually they have 188 days if they are professional staff teachers. Paras have a certain calculation, 183 days in their contract. So regardless of if we switch to hours and you decide to waive days for students, we will have to come up with plans for staff that will likely be connected to school closure, professional development, things of that nature. So regardless of your decision for students, we will have to make accommodations for staff for those 4 days that we missed. So.
And I know this says action, but this was really just informational tonight, correct? We don't
This
need
was
to make a decision
informational
right
tonight.
now.
Eventually, we will need a decision from the board to set the final day of school based on hours or days, but yes.
Does anybody have any questions for Sandy?
I just did an observation, there were 34, 52 hours
In excess.
in excess, which is tough here. Well, we're gonna be okay because it's working out, but the staff needs are.
So we'll be giving instruction about a week's more than the state maximum requirement for hours. Do you have any concerns, and have you entertained, do you feel the need to entertain, seeing as how 3 out of 4 of those days have been A block rather than B block, to do any shifting and to try to, supplement the A over the B, or is that just causing more chaos?
With our current days,
Yes.
without talking to staff and administrators at the middle and high school, my gut, having taught at the high school for many years, is that that would cause more chaos than
That's what I'm assuming,
intended.
just wanted to ask.
Based on their planning through the end of the year, we have, it was referenced earlier, advanced placement exams coming up, state testing at the middle school coming up, final exams at the high school eventually. So, we're trying to avoid any other potential disruption to those.
In that case, I didn't ask the question.
Katie, I just have a
Yes,
quick
yeah,
question. The professional development days that you already have set for the end of the year, they do not have any except for the end of the year.
Contractually, all of our staff have completed their professional development days. They have 5 per year.
Okay.
Their final day was in March. So these would be 4 additional, if we go that route, 4 additional contractual days that we would have to plan. We would look at options to provide professional development. It's at the end of the fiscal year when we've expended the majority of our funds for professional learning. So we'd have to get creative with how we would plan those days if we move in that direction. So.
Thank you. Okay, so, but we need to make a decision soon, not tonight, and I think there's some other things that, Justin, you were gonna be asking about, because I know there's some construction that's going on over at the middle and high school, high school, right? And that's gonna be, I know that's timing wise, that they're gonna need every second to be able to, so I know there's some other things going on that you guys were talking about, so. It was nice to see it today. So I think that we
Hopefully
should.
you have glasses on.
I did,
That's
burn out my retina. I feel like we should probably move sooner rather than later. I feel like by next board meeting, we should be able to set it, and that way people can start planning, because I know families have vacations, and then also too for the teachers and staff and figuring out. And the professional development committee and the construction going on, there's a lot riding on what our decision is about. So I feel like more information will be here on the 18th so that we can make a better decision.
Will that be enough time for administration to do their parts in this process too, if we wait until then? Or would it make your life easier if we did something tonight?
I feel like.
Look, I think we will plan accordingly and plan something purposeful, regardless of whether it is 4 days, 2 days, 1 day. We will do everything we can to make those days valuable for staff. I have heard from, not a lot, but under 5 staff who work at the secondary level who are concerned around the impact to lost instructional time, who had requested, can we make up some of that time we've lost it, right? Because it does impact their ability to get through their planning, the content, and some of these classes that are math, for example, where they're trying to get students to a certain place to move on to the following year. So just sharing the information for you all, and we'll go with the will of the board and how you choose to move forward. We'll plan around whatever your decision is.
Has that staff stated on whether or not if we could get 2 more days, or if we could get 1 more day, and they stated what they might think, or do they want all 4 days?
Not specifically, no.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to think about the balance between what families have already identified that Wednesday, and for the board to strike the balance between the maximizing the instructional time for kids and not disrupting kids' schedules. And I think when you pass the weekend, there's probably more feasibility that that's going to happen, but we've got some time before that we should maybe ask you to consider.
So we'll make a decision on the 18th then. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, for that. Okay. Does anybody have any more questions for Sandy before we move on to policies? Policies. We have 4 for a second read / adoption. This is policy GCF, which is professional staff hiring. There's been no changes since first read and changes in dates for summer hiring. Policy GCCBC, policies, family and medical leave, no changes since the first read. We removed and added language to provide detail of hours worked for eligible employees. We also have policy JIH, which is student interrogations and searches. No changes since first read. Revisions to number 7 to detail the superintendent's authority to direct building admin to the use of appropriate tools for student searches. This included the ones that we now have. And this is policy FAA, annual facilities plan. No changes since the first read. New policy with language provided by the New Hampshire School Board Association sample policy. We can, since it's their second readings, we can do them all if we want to.
Any questions or discussions? Otherwise, I'll move to
Well, you can always make a motion in the second and have
That's
a
true.
discussion, so go ahead.
make a motion to adopt policy GCF, policy GCCBC, policy JIF,
JIH.
thank you, and policy FAA.
Have a motion, to have a second?
Second Mark's motion. Make my night.
Motion by Mark, second by Jack. Any discussion on these policies? Again, nothing's changed from first read to now. All right, seeing that there is none, all those in favor? Opposed and abstained. All right. School food service pricing increases. Justin.
Ms. Watkins is going to speak.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing all right.
So, planning to increase the food service prices, breakfast and lunch by 10 cents. I see that an increase of 10 cents. To the prices, as you probably are aware, the price of running a food service nowadays is extremely unpredictable. The federal government and the state of New Hampshire have a tool that helps us calculate what should be the prices that we should charge in order to cover the portion that we should be covering for the food service. The calculator this year, the prices that we are proposing, which is on 10 cents increase, we will be to have a carry shortfall to the recommended price by, say, of 25 cents. So even though we increase by 25 cents, we will have a shortfall of 25 cents per meal. An average 25 cents per meal shortfall. So that's not uncommon, and nobody looks to cover 100% of the cost by kids paying for meals. That's what we're doing. Since we understand that there's a lot of families who will increase yet on something else, but at the same time, our cost from the food service program is increasing. So that's why we decided to just put a 10 cent increase, which does not cover the recommendation, the recommended price, but at least it's something that will help.
1 second. Will you close that door? Because I know they're speaking and it's echoing into here. Thank you.
Maria, can you repeat the 25-cent thing? that you
Yes,
said?
if you don't care.
The federal government and the state have this calculator, and what they do is they increase, they take into consideration what we charge, the number of students and the number of meals that we serve every day, both for breakfast and lunch. Then they have a calculation which says, okay, based on your history is this. Then the federal government and the state put a 10.27% increase, which is a 2% annual increase that they always do, and then they use the CPI. The CPI this year is 8.27. It's, I think, the highest in 16 years. So it is very high because they apply that into the calculation. We know is a little overstated because this year we happen to have a very high CPI.
CPI.
Consumer Price Index.
Thank you.
So as you know, Consumer Price Index governs a lot of the increases, especially in commodities.
So the state's
Taking
saying,
into consideration that we know is a high CPI, that is being applied to this increase this year, I feel comfortable with the 25%, with the 25-cent average shortfall per meal. Because again, I know it's a huge, they're calculating a huge increase, which hopefully next
But
year.
we're only doing 10%, 10 cent increase.
10-cent increase per meal.
So, a couple questions, well, thank you, you answered a few of my questions, I didn't know if that included breakfast, and how many breakfasts we serve. Does that 10 cents cover, it doesn't, you're shaking your head no, does that 10 cents cover the impact to the district? Or does 25 cents, in other words, what I'm saying is, we should do the minimal amounts to cover our increased cost, if I understand this correctly. And if we find out that the second part of that question is if we find out we're being negatively impacted by that the 10 cents isn't enough, can we increase it at some point in time? In other words, let's give the students as much relief as possible without taking it on the jobs. And if we find out that that's not enough, can we increase it down the road, or at least lock it into whatever we decide to do here at the beginning of the year? I don't know the answers
Well,
to
the
that.
food service program is not a self-funded program. Obviously, the district funds part of the program. Part is with the money that they pay per meals, they pay for a portion of the program. They do not fund the program 100%. This is a district fund program.
So in other words, the actual cost of the meal is greater than we are currently paying. You're trying to close the gap between the increases, which is calculated 25 cents, and just increasing it by 10 cents. But when a student buys the meal, they're not actually paying the full cost of that meal. Am I hearing that correctly?
And we pay that, excuse me for not understanding this, we pay for some of it, like what I'd like to see is what percentage comes from whom. I just don't want to.
So do you want to do more than the 10 cents? Is that what you're saying?
No, I just want to make sure that we don't get burned. In other words, it could go either way for me. I just want to make sure that we impact the students or the families the least without impacting the rest of the district. I'm just trying to find that now. I honestly don't understand this, like how proportionally this is funded. So I would like to know that.
I think we were trying to strike the right balance, which is why we haven't done that.
Right.
Does anybody have any other questions for Maria? Could I get a motion to act on the recommendation to increase meal prices by 10 cents for school year 2024-2025? So moved by Kim, second by Jack. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Are you opposing or are you for?
No, I'm still slow.
Okay, I don't know, that's what I was asking.
She had some problems lately.
Thank you.
6 cents, all right. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. General assurances, FY25 general assurances.
All right, so you've got an executive summary in front of you that's looking for two recommendations. The first is for the minutes to reflect that I'm going to walk you through what the federal funds are that the district receives, and then the general assurances requirements and definitions that are correlated to those funds. And then we're also looking for the board to authorize the board chair to sign the fiscal year 25 general assurances on behalf of the Timberlane Regional School Board. Some background. So any agency that receives federal funds needs to move through an annual general assurance process. We are no different than that. Because we serve as an LEA, both the board and the superintendent must certify that we're going to move through and use federal funds under certain assurances. And that's essentially what this document outlines for you. In terms of the funds that we are typically receive that are federally related, they really fall into four buckets. The first is Title 1A. And although these funds vary from year to year, we can generally expect that total is about $130,000. These are supplementary education supports directly for students. The second bucket is Title 2A. Roughly, it's about $100,000 of federal funds that comes to the Timberlane Regional School District. This is around professional development, and Timberlane's made historic decisions to use that exclusively on new staff and the induction for those into the learning culture here. The third bucket is Title 4A. That sum is about $50,000 of federal funds each year. They are to support the overall general experience for students. And the last and largest is IDEA. This generally falls in the $850,000 range, and this is specifically funded or targeted for special education service delivery.
The general assurances themselves are broken into 3 categories. The first is just a list of insurances. This is about eligibility and compliance requirements that's behalf of the district. The second is about grant management requirements. So do we have the right audits and internal controls and mechanisms to kind of execute the actual spending of those grants that we're accepting? And the last is a very long list of just words and definitions of what they mean when they're listed in there. So again, we're looking for the board to understand the federal funds that we receive and then authorize Katie to sign on the general insurances on behalf of the school board. Happy to entertain any questions or queries folks have.
This sounds like this is something we have to do every year for this.
It's an annual requirement.
It's an annual thing. Yes, John, did you have something?
This is how other districts are doing it too.
All right, could I get a motion to act on the recommendation for the meeting minutes to reflect the superintendent has informed the board of the federal funds the district will be receiving and of the general assurances requirements and definitions for participation in the federal programs?
So moved.
I was like, I was just reading it really slow for Linda. There you go. All right, I have a motion by Mark, do I have a second? Second by Shauna. Any other discussion? Again, these are just federal funds and.
All the federal funds are there?
Those are the 4 large kind of categories. Yes.
Any other discussion on this? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained. Okay, and then the second motion, can I get a motion to act on authorizing the school board chair to sign the FY25 general assurances on behalf of the Timberlane Regional School Board? So moved by Jack, do I have a second? Second by Kim. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained. Okay. Facilities update. I believe Mr. Krieger.
Facilities update. Yeah, Carl was not able to join us tonight with the reschedule, but we spent some time last week and report out kind of maybe 3 categories to the board. The first is to kind of review some of the completed projects that are kind of moved past and we're moving on with. The JV baseball field is done. It was done in a very quick time. They played sod out there, and that's going to be ready for the season to start very soon, upcoming within days. The other piece, a large piece that's done, is the pond dredging job is substantially complete. That's going to enlarge benefit the infrastructure for irrigation and part of the successive plan and kind of care for the fields as we continue to build those processes over time. What I wanted a cool thing to point out is that the high school has something called the OWLS Award. These are recommended kind of by staff to staff, and it just recognizes excellence in service to the community. And this time around, there were coaches that kind of stepped forward and wanted to recognize the high school grounds crew for the work that they've done outside of the fields in preparation for tryouts in the spring season. And they also passed on the custodian team that also works around the athletic facilities as well. So it's nice that our own staff that serve as coaches as well are recognizing the work of other staff that kind of make those things possible for themselves and for kids. And lastly, just for the last 30 days, the custodial crew and maintenance guys have processed 224 requests and 222 facility requests. So well over 400 pieces of discrete pieces of information have kind of been processed by that team. So kudos to them. One update in the facilities report before I kind of look forward and give you some things about what will be happening ahead is there's language there that looks like the district wanted to explore looking to build a track storage facility. I just wanted to give an update to the board. This is from last Thursday. We've done some due diligence then and examined it with the athletic director, walking through the storage facilities, and we are not going to be bringing that recommendation forward in terms of building a new facility. There's some things that we can do in the very short term that would be a whole lot less, have a lot less cost impact, but also some plans to maximize the storage that we currently have on site. Looking forward, really big stuff happening at the high school this year that was really kind of mirroring what happened at the middle school last year. You heard Sandy allude to it a little bit during the presentation about hours. AEI is going to get in there on the first possible day they can after students and staff are done, and they're going to need every waking second of the summertime. 3 major things that are happening at the high school. There's going to be a lot of roof work that is done, a lot of boiler work, and the beginning of the window projects. So really the high school is a construction zone from the moment we're able to open it, and then we're going to allow them to work in there and get ready for that first day of school that's proposed right now in August. So lots of work happening at the high school this summer. The other thing to look at is that we're going to continue to look at internal controls. about how we're processing through kind of payment requests here throughout the district as well. So those are non-denominational figures. It's not related to the conversation tonight, but I wanted to pass that along to the board as well with regard to facilities.
Does anybody have any questions about the facilities update this time?
So let's see which one. Work in progress. Varsity softball infield. Is that a major repair? I mean, here's an example of I don't know what we're doing. I've heard about laser shooting fields. I've heard all kinds of aspects of some things of replacing fields. This is why I wanted to adjustment to that policy earlier. And I would love all brand new turf fields. No one's more into fixing fields than I am. But I want to make sure that we know what's going on. As you and I discussed, there was a list of priorities, and for us to be able to do that, we need to understand better what the plan is. So, and that's just something that I remember someone saying something about laser shooting field, and that means you're redoing the entire field. So, we can discuss that at a later date, I guess.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions or comments they want to make towards Justin at this time for the facilities update? Okay. All right. Next is ad hoc committee recommendations.
Committee recommendations. So we have talked a little bit as a board. There was some discussion of it last week on the 21st in March of the board, and bringing to you some considerations for this evening. They're two separate pieces, but I think that there have been some long-standing unsolved, kind of unfinished business here in the district. One is pertaining to kindergarten. And what we want to do in terms of kindergarten full-day tuition-free instruction moving forward or not. And the second piece is with regard to TLC, and not just the facility that's over there, but the early educational programming and how we want to look to maximize that in terms of the student benefit. So what I'm looking to do is to talk to the board and then create two ad hoc committees. I'd like to assign an administrator to kind of run point with a board member on each of those. And really, they're both exploratory in nature in terms of looking at full-day kindergarten as tuition-free. Every soup to nuts to bolts in terms of the facility, to the funding for it, to the cost of the district, to the benefit of the students, and come back in a very defined time frame and give the board some recommendations or things to think about. And I want that same thing to happen with regard to early childhood education programming throughout the district. We have one kind of local center here at TLC, but we've also got early childhood educational programming happening in all of our elementary schools. And for the board and the district to really take a close look at how we're going to maximize that benefit for students and families throughout the district. Again, with a defined timeline and a reporting mechanism back to the board for recommendation.
Jack, did you have something?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. The more information, the more data we can drive through committees, I would probably recommend is the plan to have residents like from the district on those committees. I've always found that to be fruitful. But it's all about driving data. It's all about driving information and people. And I just want to acknowledge people and administrators and teachers that give up their time in addition to their daily schedules, right? Board members, it's not Thursday nights. It's 7 days a week. So I'm not complaining about it, but I think that's a great idea. That's for both of those.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions about these? So then the board, we need to authorize this. So could I get someone to make a motion to develop the ad hoc committees for the full day kindergarten and TLC?
So moved.
Motion by Kim, seconded by Shauna. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, and then we'll talk about the, okay. And abstain, and nobody objects. Okay, cool. Sorry, I had a brain fart for like 2 seconds. All right, so we've made these two committees. We need 2 board members per committee to serve on this. So I know Kim and Shauna have talked about wanting to be on the full day K, but is there any other, is the board good with those 2 individuals? All right, so we'll have Kim and Shauna on the full day K. Is there any board members who would like to be on the committee for the TLC, the learning? Mark, and is anybody else?
I
Don?
volunteer, Don.
Okay, Mark and Don, okay, cool. Right, any other discussion about that? I feel like we got those are good. Right up your
When
alley.
does that start?
So now that we done, I believe it'll start now, but then I believe Justin will be connecting with people, and then also too, I believe the community can be looking for further information to get buy-in and participation.
Yeah, I think I
correct?
see, the general next step, I think for both would be for the board co-chair to get together with the admin co-chair. I'm hoping to kind of meet with me and just kind of flush out and talk out the charge for that group. And in doing that, who's gonna kind of make up the larger committee itself. So looking at the public, looking for other levels of expertise or skill sets that we want to add to those teams, and then setting their defined timeline, and then bringing back to the board kind of what they're gonna do over the course of that time.
Do you have an idea of who the admin would be for these two, or
We do.
can you share now or no?
What I'd like to do is connect with the co-chair, and then we'll.
Okay, great.
And
Just in case public watching wanted to connect with somebody.
the public will be getting some info soon. Before we move on to the administrative report, since we are on committees, I just want you to all know that in your packet, you actually have, I think, a paper one in there as the new committee assignments. Well, some things that we've been trying to do that's a little different is we are trying to restructure some of our committees. Some of our committees started bleeding over this past year, and we really need to streamline it and button it up and make them more efficient. So one thing that we've done this year, talking with Mark and with Justin, is that we're going to have one administrator per committee that's going to kind of help co-chair with another member from the board. We're going to do some restructuring in some of these. And better ways of coming out and being able to report to the public what's going on in those committees. CNA always does an excellent job of reporting out, and we want to make sure that our other committees are doing as well, kind of modeling what they kind of do a little bit. But these are everyone's committee's assignments as of right now. If your name has a star by it, looks like you're going to be co-chairing, but again, we can always talk in that committee. Does anybody have any questions about the committee so far? Yeah, Jack.
You and I had a great conversation about the need to streamline. I really did. I appreciated the conversation. I had some time to think about it, and the thought process was originally to eliminate the construction committee.
Yes.
I'm going to ask the board to reconsider that. It's really a board decision as to how these committees are set up. We're about halfway through. We're $12 million through the lease, and to the gentleman's point that spoke a little bit earlier, without that committee, high school windows wouldn't have gotten done. And to get those windows done, you've got to kind of borrow from Peter to pay Paul. So you're flipping things around. That lease list was things that were energy, pertaining to energy. That particular group is probably out of the 25 years I've been doing this, probably the best and most effective committee I've ever sat on. I'm not talking boards, because I love you guys. But you have engineers, you have contractors, you have tradesmen, and we're able to discuss things with the architects and the engineers and EI at an extremely high level. We can all read drawings and prioritizing things. We all have differences of opinions, and our priorities don't always align with each other. And I can tell you internally amongst the volunteers, we have a project manager that just got a coveted award from the city of Boston for being one of the best property manager in the city of Boston. All that knowledge, all that work, all that expertise is free. I think it would be ill-advised to walk away from it. I do see the construction committee at some time being phased out, but not at this point in time where we still have some major things to consider. The envelope of the high school, the envelope of the middle school that needs to be addressed. We have two rooms in the old section of the academy that I think might be eligible for grant, but those walls are completely deteriorated and waterlogged inside the building. Those are two of the most beautiful rooms. It's an old-fashioned schoolroom with big windows and lights pouring through it. We need that level of expertise and that perspective. Those members of that committee bring perspective, and quite frankly, and I don't want anyone to be offended by this, we don't have that level of expertise. within the administration or on the board. I mean, it's just not what everybody does.
I think especially when we're talking about major projects, you know, it's important to have that next level of support. People who are knowledgeable that can share their insight, not to steer it, you know, but just to kind of fact check things.
So facilities that committee is getting completely revamped. And so while, yes, construction committee is going away because we're in the second phase of the lease and getting ready to be into the third, part of that construction committee, some aspects of that will be within the facilities committee. So we're still gonna get those people and it's gonna be restructured into that. But unfortunately, this last year, we had too much bleeding over. We had CIP bleeding over to facilities, bleeding over to construction, to the point that the construction committee took the CIP list and completely rewrote it. Like, there was too much of blurring. We were trying to.
Right, I don't want to conflate this.
No, absolutely.
I was looking at it in terms of, once you've got a project that you're going to handle, you use the resources you have.
Yep.
You know, to ensure that everybody you're communicated with well, that you're going to have the best resources, insight into problems that you run into. So I was thinking there, at least not maybe all the time going on, but certainly we could identify which projects would need that support as a board.
And the
Before you, hold on, does anybody else want to?
I just wanted to say that I kind of appreciate this version of it because I think things got a little convoluted when they would come or not come at all to the board. But I want to make sure too that those people that are the experts will still be in the room. And I just really think a more streamlined version of managing all the different projects. I think it's really important.
I don't disagree with the streamlining. I mean, I did see, and I was very cognizant of, because I chaired the CIP committee, of any committee stepping on the CIP's toes. I mean, out of just plain old respect. So I understand completely where you're coming from. The other thing is having that direct relationship with the contractors and the architects bears a lot of fruit, right? Because now you're able to talk openly, you're able to, you know, bounce things off of each other. A number of times they called me and said, hey, Jack, you know, we have a structural concern. Can you come down here and make a recommendation? Which was great that we had that relationship. I guess before we dissolve that construction committee, I want to know what the plan is for the facilities committee. Because my concern, I'm very candid, is that I'm trying to prevent filters from being put on things.
What do you mean, filters?
I mean, I feel oftentimes, like for instance, there was two mindsets on the windows. One mindset was that we were told that on a regular basis that we can't do windows. It's a bigger project. It's going to go on the next $25 million lease down the road. That was an interesting meeting. I don't, because you all know I talk too much. They come in here and share all the
Second that motion.
all the details with that, but it was a spirited conversation. It bore fruit that I believe was positive. It was desperately needed. So that's what I mean by we need as many perspectives brought to the table as possible. And remember, these committees, all they do is report back to us. They're not making the decisions. But what I think the board would want is the most thorough review of the possibilities. And then that way there, and you guys have heard me say this 1,000 times, it's the data that drives the decision. And the more accurate and the most data we receive, the better the decisions we can make. So I guess I'd have to see what that facilities committee is going to look like first. And I don't know that.
So assuming that, and Katie, I don't know what your thought was, like assuming that the facilities committee would still hold those.
We will.
Right.
And actually, Mark's going to say something real quick.
Oh, good, yeah.
Yeah, so as one of the folks on the facilities committee, and I will speak for Paul because he's not here and he can't contradict me. I would find it very valuable to have some of those players that have been key and instrumental with their background and expertise on that committee assisting with certain projects.
So
That's how I envision it. And and I know that we're trying to keep something that was messy, kind of a spaghetti ball and separate it, but still get the work done in a more streamlined fashion. That being said, in order to make it more streamlined, I don't think it's worthwhile to do away with the expertise that we do have at our fingertips. I hear what you're saying. It resonates. I agree. I was there for that particular discussion regarding. Yes, I was there. So I know where you're coming from. I agree with you. So I foresee not doing away with that outside expertise for some projects where it makes sense. Because they have a knowledge base that I do not.
So the next thing I would say is knowing that now we're gonna basically transfer the responsibilities of the construction committee to the facilities committee.
Parts of it, yes.
Okay, and now I'm not on the facilities committee. That's cruel and indecent punishment for the amount of work that I've put in. And I'll just tell you right now, that does not, I'm a straight shooter. That does not make me happy because there is no one on this board as versed as I am when it comes to this stuff. And I have served this board extremely well, watching out for the best interests of my constituents and this board. And I've had this board's back through all of this. You guys all know that. I've been right more than I've been wrong. So that I have so I'd make a motion to put me on facilities.
So my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that even though we have committee obligations or assignments through the board, that any board member can attend any other committee meetings?
Just like any member of the public has any, or
if we
come
so
to any of the
choose.
committees. Yep.
So I would hope you would consider doing that.
No, I won't. And that's a slap in the face. Quite frankly, getting rid of the construction committee and transferring all that over to that, and putting me on that, when I'm probably the most talented person. And I know why. Let's not pull any punches. I know exactly why.
Well, there's been a motion,
I'll tell you right now.
I have not recognized anyone more speak. There's been a motion on the floor to put Jack on facilities. Is there a second?
Make a second.
There's a second for Mr. Sapia to be on facilities. Any other discussion?
Is it worth having a workshop to figure out what we're gonna do to manage these changes to revamping the committees? I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around that too.
If you wish, we can.
Maybe we would all feel better about the trajectory of where committees are going if we had a better understanding of each. I know I can only speak to the committees I'm on. I know our role, our mission, and what our purpose is. And forgive me in my ignorance, but I learned about the construction CIP through Jack. So maybe coming together as a team. I read a lot, but I don't understand some of that language. Just to be transparent, but I do my due diligence and try and reach out to those folks. So maybe for the board's understanding and for the public's understanding, having a workshop about committees and the missions of committees and the roles of committees and who's on them and who people can connect with would be more helpful to increase transparency, which is clearly the goal of all the folks that spoke tonight and the commitment of this board and administration.
You asked me earlier, I think it was one of you asked me what I meant by filter. That's exactly what I mean by filter. That's exactly what I mean by filtering stuff up. By not putting me, I mean, I have very legitimate priorities, and I kind of know the sequence in which construction stuff is done. And sometimes it isn't consistent with other people's opinions. But my family has 300 years of experience in the industry. You guys have all heard me say this. I had 100 bricklayers working for me. I built skyscrapers for a living. To think I wouldn't be part of that hurts the board.
Okay.
By keeping me off of that, quite frankly, and I'm pretty upset right now. By keeping me off of that is trying.
There's been a motion.
Is a filter. Okay. I'm not.
Well, as chair, I'm not recognizing you speak anymore. There's been a motion, and there's been actually as chair, I do. There has been a motion and a second to put Jack on facilities. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And abstained. So 2 for, 2 against, 2 abstained, so it fails. All right. Administrator's report.
Can I ask you to talk about kids and staff?
Oh, I'm sorry, are we skipping personnel?
No, we do administrator's
Oh,
report.
sorry,
And then
sorry, okay, my bad.
You're fine.
It's not in mine, it's
Okay.
red.
actually have two pieces of really positive news to share about our staff. Back on Friday, March 29th, Atkinson Academy School Library Media Specialist. She's like,
Hold on just a
wait,
second,
yes,
hold on a second,
yes,
Sandy.
Oh, I can't hear you. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Sandy.
No, that's okay. So just to go back on Friday, March 29th, our Atkinson Academy School Library Media Specialist, Jennifer Tooth, was honored at the New Hampshire School Library Media Association's meeting and as School Librarian of the Year, which is a major honor. I know Justin was able to be there along with some of her colleagues from Atkinson and other school librarians. The School Librarian of the Year is recognized for ongoing excellence in school librarianship, and they are considered, award recipients are leaders in the school library community at the local, regional, and state levels. So we are incredibly proud of Jennifer. It's a very well-deserved honor. She does a lot of work in our district and at the state level to move forward the work of our school librarians, and so congratulations to her. Also, last Friday, just a week later, Sandown North music and strings teacher Allison Yankowskis was honored by the New Hampshire Music Educators Association as the NHMEA Distinguished Music Educator of the Year. She was honored for her dedication and commitment to the students of Sandown North Elementary and for advancing string education throughout the state. So again, that ceremony coincided with Allstate, with New Hampshire Elementary Honors Chorus. I was able to attend that as well, and she had the majority of her colleagues across the district with her to celebrate her work. So we are incredibly proud of those two educators who are being recognized for their hard work with students on a regular basis. So congratulations to them. You'll be hearing more about that. We'll continue to celebrate their achievements. And then just more recently today, we obviously had the solar eclipse. And just sharing some educational opportunities that our schools have put in place that coincide with that. So both the Pollard School and Sandown North have hooked up with the McAuliffe Shepherd Discovery Center, the planetarium up in Concord. We had some Pollard fifth grade students recently visit the planetarium to view a presentation on totality, the solar eclipse, and the Shepherd McAuliffe Center is bringing the same presentation, but a traveling show to Sandown North this week. So our students are going to be able to see that. And earlier today, I think they're still driving home. We had a small group of staff and students drive to Derby, Vermont. They left bright and early at the crack of dawn this morning to experience totality in person. And that was coordinated by high school science teacher Lou Broad. Mr. Pedersen, who is often here, they sent us a message back around 6:45 and said they were in St. Johnsbury after 3 hours of trying to drive. So they are likely still on the road, but also confirmed that it was one of the most amazing experiences that they had, and the students and staff really had a great time. So happy to see some experiences outside of the classroom that are happening for kids.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Great news all around.
Sharing the stuff. 8 things I just want to revisit from either the last meeting in March or since then in terms of rolling out information to the board. The first is around the conversation that I stimulated last week around our last board meeting about the debt collection agency. Offered maybe perhaps thinking about that. Again, we incur debt really by 2 buckets. One is about tuition that we are not able to recover from families, and the other is through the food service program that we're not able to recover from families. In total, that's around $200,000. What we'd like to do is to partner with a debt collection agency, so we're not asking our own staff to have those conversations, but also to be able to provide families with a notice of intent about as of X next date, and give them all the possible parameters and ways that they can go about kind of settling that debt before we move that way. So wanted to bring that back to the board and then see if we're comfortable moving in that direction. Other thing I'd like to kind of revisit is around board committees. I know that we had just kind of spoken to that. We are going to be developing a protocol that's going to be common around all subcommittees. And again, the purpose is about consistently running meetings, but also more than that, how we're going to consistently report out the occurrences and happenings of those meetings. So not only to the board, but to the general public. We're excited to begin that work. Also, to revisit next board meeting, we're going to be bringing two things to you. One is going to be some staffing realignment. We're going to really prioritize some services at the elementary level and special education, and you'll see that kind of in the proposal next week. And concurrently with that, we're going to continue to do the enrollment update to the board, really specifically focused on elementary school because they kind of go hand in hand together, and that will be coming up before the board on April 18th. Wanted to remind the public that we're also in need of a district clerk for next year. So if you have any interest there, just give the SAU a call and we'll kind of walk you through that process in terms of getting you here in terms of supporting us. Also a reminder to families that do free or reduced lunches through the Timberlane Regional School District. Copper Canyon again is sponsoring free tuition for their full week camp up in Franconia, New Hampshire. It is a tremendous opportunity for kids. It's a well-respected organization. And this really applies for anyone ages 13 to 16 as a group and from 9 to 12 as a group. And again, if you have any interest or you know someone that may have an interest in doing that, please contact me here at the superintendent's office and I'll feel free to kind of walk you through that process. But a great opportunity that's free for members of our community. Two other things to give you. We're still looking on, there was a question raised last board meeting about multi-year contracts and the feasibility of entering into those with related service providers through contracting pieces. We have some conversations now with our legal team to see how that would pan out. So we're still in the process of getting some concrete information for the board to consider and the admin team to consider around that. And also looking around any feedback on school board meetings in 60 seconds. Sometimes they take a lot and there's a lot of minutes to read through, but we shared kind of what a sample would look like that for you. But really it'd be a way for us to blast out information to the community that it could take 60 seconds so you can learn, the 5 most important things that the board decided or that the students and staff shared that evening or the administrators are reporting out. So a visual and audio way to kind of get that information out to the public.
That was great. Yeah. I really appreciated that, yeah.
Awesome.
That was great.
Any thoughts on revisited items before I move to new items?
Will you want action on the agency and the unfunded funds next week? Or this is an informational, never mind.
Yeah, just we raised it. We raised it. We think we want to move in that direction and just bring it in here to see if there was any deep concerns. But
my only concern there is that you first have some contact with the family, saying that will be the next step if you don't have a plan in place. To your debt.
You don't talk to us.
It can't be just somebody shows up one day.
Yeah.
Which sounds like that's not gonna
Which
happen.
is kind of what has happened. Head of any referral. But this sounds a little bit more predictable than the way you're presenting it. I think we have to make an impact on that. So.
Any questions before we move on?
5 new things to kind of bring to the board. The first is just wanted to address the tennis court lights. I know we're engaged with members of the community and also individual members of the board. That situation has brought the light, and there are certainly some things that we can do to communicate better and to get around the breakdown in communication that we have here. So I'm eager to partner with the board. I know there were 3 motions made tonight in terms of what a dollar figure is going to be, where we're at bid right now, but also looking at policy as well. So we're going to continue to work and have a little bit more transparent communication all the way through the school administration of the board to the public and working through in that direction. The second, I want to let everyone know that every middle school 8th grader got a personalized, very small group tour with Mr. John Vaccarezza in high school. So he takes a week out of his calendar every year and he walks very small groups of middle school students through the high school. So each kid is kind of getting a very kind of hands-on experience with that principal, and the entire aspect is just to get connected to something that they see or hear that day. So it's a tremendous use of time, I think, and it just speaks to the personalization and connection that we're trying to make for every kid. It's a massive transition, and to be able to take the tour in groups of 10 with the high school principal, I think it's a really awesome practice. So I wanted to recognize John for that work. Also want the board to consider this. This is the first time I'll be talking about it publicly, but for folks to consider. I think there needs to be a conversation started in our communities that really involve some key people. I think we need to start getting together with our state reps. I think we need to start getting together with our local reps. I think some members of the school board need to participate in those conversations, and members of BudCom. So I'm going to be able to start reaching to all 4 of those groups. We all have a vested interest in terms of looking at the funding mechanisms for education and what the benefit is going to be to our communities and our kids. So I think that the sooner those groups of people can start getting together and talking about how to support one another, it's going to be better for the Timberlane community. So give that some thought. I'm going to revisit it again on April 18th, and maybe we can get a little bit more logistical kind of feasibility around those type of pieces. The other thing that I'm thinking about doing is that we have exit interviews with staff. It's just a common practice in the district. One thing that I am thinking about talking with Sandy about is maybe we should perhaps start doing exit interviews with families. There's a lot of different reasons that families decide not to continue to attend Timberlane schools. Some of those are way outside of those control, and I think it's good for us to understand and know those. And some of them may be in our control, and I think it's a good idea for us to understand those. So we're going to start talking as an admin team. If we did that, maybe what that would look like, how the process would kind of be governed. But again, it's just more information for us to consider in terms of future programming. And lastly, just to report out where we kind of stand on RFPs right now, there are 4 that are currently out there. One is about paving. It closed on the 19th. Timberlane received 1 bid, and we'll be bringing any recommendation around that bid to the next meeting on the 18th. Second RFP that is out there is for the district mowing. It's for all district grounds. That's going to close on April 30th, and there was a mandatory walkthrough on April 3rd. We had 1 vendor participate in the walkthrough, but also a second vendor call. So they couldn't make that, but they are going to be interested in submitting a bid. So we look to hopefully gather 2 of those, and again, that's a closer date of April 30th. The Wayfinder signage is going to have a mandatory walkthrough on April 10th. That closes on May 7th, and again, this is us simply seeking information about a total cost to have some safety signs put up around campus, but also some things that just kind of improve the quality of kind of getting through the main campus here, where all of our kids and families eventually kind of end up. We'll bring that back in terms of once we get those numbers. And we also just put out the video intercom RFP that's going to come up through the budget process. And this is about kind of reconfiguring some of the entrances to the schools and kind of upgrading the surveillance that's there in terms of the entrance and exit for visitors and staff and kids and everybody kind of entering our school buildings. That concludes any new business for me.
Anybody have any questions for Justin about his administrator report? Yes.
The sign RFP, is there any way that we could, want to rescind the sign RFP, if we're going to spend $50,000 on signage, especially if it's to say that way to the back, we have a shop, right? We have kids in shop. Why not have them make the signs and save the taxpayers $50,000? That's just,
Good idea.
I mean, I don't know what they do in there as far as the business that they do, but I think we've heard a lot about incremental, small spending adding up to a large amount of money. That's one way that we can circumvent that. So I don't know if that takes a motion to pull that off,
I
or
think we can just direct him to research that avenue.
Yeah, let's just find out what,
It's a good idea.
time frame and expense and whatnot it would be.
Some capabilities, right?
I can do that.
That would be a source of pride too. Yeah, absolutely.
I have one other.
Yes.
Justin, I don't know if you can address this or not. Maybe it's a question for another administrator to address, but as I drove around the building, probably illegally, I drove by the middle school. Sorry, I had to say it.
You did.
On the worst day on campus, and that's the day of middle school cuts for baseball and softball. And you get all the parents lined up. I know that we weren't able to accomplish B teams. I got a lot. I don't know if anybody else got calls. I got some letters. I got other B team schedules from both softball and baseball parents. We talk about the climate and culture, and all I could, and I think I left you a message, or maybe I talked to you, Sandy. My concern that we had 30 kids really hurting. Probably the next day they walked into that school. And I can tell you from my own experience, I saw a lot of kids that made the B team go. I mean, one of them went to be a starter for Merrimack College behind the plate. These kids come into their bodies, they come into their own, even if we get, and I think you've done some lifting there, I'm not sure. But these kids come into their bodies, and if they don't, a lot of these kids, it's their last chance. And if they get cut, it used to be we had 100 kids go for baseball, 70 of them would get cut. they would never pick up a glove or a ball ever again. And I just want them to hold on to that dream, on to whatever for as long as possible. So what happened? Do you know?
So what we're proposing to do this year is we're gonna have more kids participate in those programs than we would have before, even with a B team, because we're gonna be offering a skills and drills program for those kids. The alternative is to potentially host a B team and send them to some schools that may be smaller in our size, but only have an A team in the field. And then essentially what happens is we're putting our 6th and 7th grade players up against 8th grade players from other schools. And those experiences for kids over the course of time have not been positive, nor are they constructive. So that's kind of the decision that we were put in as a school district. So we opted to have more kids be able to participate with some after-school baseball or softball programming than would be if we fielded a B team and then created that kind of disparity with some of the other schools.
My philosophy is I'd rather have kids on a baseball diamond than on a street, on the corners of the diamond than on a street corner.
Us too.
And
I
so
think we're
that's
gonna
why
be
I ask, so the parents and everybody can understand the bigger, broader picture. So,
And I just want to make a comment about that as a kiddo, as a parent of a kiddo at the middle school. It was like one little line at the bottom of an email. What you just explained makes so much more sense in terms of understanding what led to the process of that. So I think we can do better in communicating out some of the challenges that are around having B teams, and because now as a parent, I get it. I mean, I chose to sort of direct my son to do track instead of baseball for those very reasons. But the challenge in communication was that it was buried at the bottom of an email with 1 or 2 sentences and not really a good explanation. But what you just explained makes perfect sense. And I don't want my kiddo going up against 8th graders on smaller teams. So that would have been a wise choice of argument. Well, listen, I don't know. Have you met him? I love him. But he's tiny. So just I think when people understand the process of how decisions got made, that's more helpful to mitigate some frustration. So I think we can do better on that.
Any other comments or questions about Justin's admin report? Personnel report. We have, looks like 3 resignations. Would you please read them? Yes, so I'll make a motion to accept the professional resignations of Sherry Bolhorst, elementary teacher at Sandown North, Anthony D'Souza, Spanish teacher at Timberlane Regional High School, and Jacob Wilcox, science teacher at Timberlane Regional High School. I have a motion to have a second. Seconded by Kim. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and abstained. Okay, and then Fran is here. Do you have anything on the vacancy reports?
Well, I can tell you that we did have a bunch of our special ed teachers down on the vacancy report that we used their funding this year to break contracts with required special ed teachers, as well as speech and language pathologists and school psychologists. So those are the major changes that are going on as far as the vacancy report right now.
And then did you also have input about the recruitment strategy?
Yeah, I read it.
That's what I thought. I was like, wait a minute.
I didn't know if you guys had any questions about the recruitment strategy, had any thoughts.
Yeah, so do you just want to speak to it just a little bit so the community knows?
So, I mean, like one of the things that we, that took quite a long time, practically a whole year to get all the jobs, that was a really big task. We didn't really have any, we had a lot of positions, so that required a lot of work on a lot of parts. So by having that, we were able to really figure out who we needed to hire, what they needed to have, what responsibilities they needed. So it makes it a lot easier to target the right people and have a job search. We've had our own job fairs over the last couple of years. We've also attended a bunch of job fairs at colleges. They can be hit or miss. We actually went to one today at Revere, 2 of my staff members went, and it was, we had a lot of good traffic, which was great. Got a lot of interest, so I'm really happy about that. But when we went to Merrimack College, we had 1 person come to our table. So you just never know. We still go to them, still do them, and so that's something we will continue to do. We promoted pretty much every way we can all our jobs. I mean, we're on every social media you can find, and the specific ones just for schools as well. We advertise constantly for all of our jobs. They're all over the place. So we've got to use locally as well, which is great. As far as partnerships, part of the job there and doing the promotions, we have partnerships with several colleges in the area. So we can look at increasing that. Can't have too much promotion, too many partnerships, so that's something we need to continue to work on. And obviously internships are really good for us to, not only good for them, but good for us as well. So we have had several internships, OT, English, social studies, school psychologists and social work interns. Can we, can we do more with that? Absolutely. Just kind of build those relationships with colleges and try to get more interns with us. We had a couple interns last year. So, that's pretty much what we've been doing. It's hard to say what to add. I think having a really good teacher contract is going to help us retain and attract. I think absolutely. Also continuing to work and develop on our culture. Maybe people want to stay here, people want to come here. I think that's a big part of it. Not always about the money. I think those are two things that we can focus on. I did include a report, I think a study report from the legislature. We all talk anecdotally about the teacher shortage, but it actually studied why there is a teacher shortage and provided some really good information. So in case you wanted to read that, it's going to provide that to you in the packet. I mean, some of it's pay, some of it's the politicizing of education in public schools, some of it's affordable housing. So there are several reasons for that. And if you looked at, they also have looked at all the programs for teacher prep programs, and they've gone down in half as far as people going into those. So it's a nationwide issue. It's not just a New Hampshire issue.
Absolutely.
But and we're all fighting for the same people, so it really does make it very, very challenging. I will say that our administrators do a great job really reaching out to people and really interviewing as many as they can and trying to select the best person. But it's a challenge, especially in some of the fields like special ed. Those fields are very, very challenging. Math and science. There's a critical shortage list at the department that publicizes information from the schools, and pretty much every discipline is on there. When I worked years ago for Kelman Wyndham. It was usually math, science, and remote language. We're pretty much here. Now it's like social studies. Before you could always hire a social studies teacher. You know what I mean? So it's just pretty much everything's up for yeah. But if you guys have any suggestions, I'm happy to let me know.
No, thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for just going over that for the public and including this. Just some of the findings, the top concerns are stress/burnout, student behavior and discipline, school culture, and low salaries. So, yeah. Thank you for putting that. Does anybody have any questions for Fran?
No, I just wanted to say I really appreciate you putting in that.
Yeah, that's
report. It's great information, and we're all the school districts are struggling with something like this, and it's great information from the state. So I appreciate you putting that in the packet.
Don?
Are going to be going to job fairs or advertising. It seems like Vermont and Maine would be places where what you're offering would be more competitive with what's available to them in the salaries in those places.
Right.
Do we do anything to extend our?
There's a couple of issues. One would be housing. So if they live in Vermont, trying to find an affordable place in New Hampshire might be a challenge for them. Right.
I'm looking at, you have people.
Like on the border, maybe?
Yeah, sure. It's like Kittery or whatever. You have people right over the border, but you also have students coming out from colleges, in those states that are looking, to start a career.
Right.
They're very likely to be moving out of state.
They definitely could be, but again, part of the problem with affordable housing, so college kids coming out trying to find affordable housing based on a teacher's salary starting off is a challenge. Doesn't mean we can't still, there is a challenge. We did actually hire somebody from Maine. The other part of it, the problem is if you're graduating from a teacher program in another state, is not always reciprocity with tuition. So for example, I can tell you that in Massachusetts, if you take the core praxis, they don't require math. You do. The next step is that you have to come and take that here. In Maine, there was no praxis for science or phys ed. Here we have a praxis. So that's just a little bit more of a roadblock for people coming from teacher programs in other states to actually be able to get licensed here. Doesn't mean that we can't do it, it's just a little bit more challenging. We do get people from math. That is one place that we do get people, especially if they're living over the border. We have nice people from Massachusetts, which is great. But again, I think the biggest issue, especially if you're a college and you live in Maine, is trying to afford a place here. Where if you live in out of state, you can stay with your parents, maybe live for free, hopefully, pay a small rent. And but that's a challenge for us, and that's one of the things they cited in the report that the legislature did with affordable housing.
Anybody else have any other questions or comments for Fran? And again, thank you for putting this in there. It's good information.
The other thing that was the renomination list.
Oh, yes.
Oh, renomination.
So, I mean, you're not gonna obviously read everybody's name. I think last year, just do a motion to accept the renomination as presented for 24-25, and
Anyone want to make that so?
I would like that.
Oh, I'm sorry. So moved by Kim.
Arm wrestle.
Have a second by Sean.
Yeah, I have a question.
What's the question, discussion?
So can you just quickly chat with us about the different headings here that say non-continuing contract, going to continuing, continuing contract?
sure. So the non-continuing with your new teachers, those are teachers that do not have tenure. Continuing contract means they're gonna be having, our intent at the end of the year is gonna have to be on a continuing contract. And continuing contract means they already have tenure.
Any other questions?
There's a motion made. I'm gonna chat with you because I see a teacher's name on here that they teach world history and French, but he's currently teaching my son's health class. So we'll connect.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. Fran, is there anything else you need from us?
No.
Okay, thank you. Right. Committee reports. We will start with Kim.
Curriculum and assessment met on April 8th. Oh, I'm sorry, on April 2nd. I'm gonna do this, Justin, I have 3 things. Number 1, intro to fitness, the high school classes, intro to fitness. They're merging some units and they're adding a unit of nutrition goal setting as it applies to intro to fitness. That will come to the board next meeting for first read. In conjunction with that, Health 1 is going to add a unit of nutrition and assessing valid health information. Basically, reading labels, getting information at the right place that they can rely on. And so those two, both of those will come to the board for the first read next time. And the elementary science resource, we approved mystery science as an instructional resource for all K through 6 students to work hand in hand with the curriculum we have now. Lucy worked closely with the teachers from each grade at each elementary school to be sure it aligns with our current standards. And our next CNA meeting will be Tuesday, May 7th. Next, Shauna?
So policy committee is currently polling members to reschedule from last Thursday's snow day. So hopefully we'll be meeting this week, I think is the push potentially for Thursday, the 11th. Clearly, since I see a star next to my name on this committee's thing, I have to look through the agenda because I guess I'll be co-chairing that, which is totally fine. But I definitely want to review the agenda with admin to make sure that the conversations about tonight and the bidding and the RFPs and things of that nature that Mark and the board have brought forward and the public has brought forward is predominantly on the agenda for the next meeting to prioritize that. So that will be something I'll be digging into starting tomorrow. Wellness committee is meeting on Wednesday, April 10th here at the SAU at 4 p.m. Pretty much what that team does is there's a representative from every school in the building. And so we review their current wellness initiatives, what they're doing based on their building. And that is inclusive of not just the students and staff, but also employees and outreach to communities, things of that nature. So an example is the Run of the Savages of the Pollard community is both for the students, the staff, and community outreach. So it's good to hear the different wellness initiatives that are going on in different buildings. We do a lot of idea sharing, which is really great. And then we take each school and what their wellness initiatives are in comparison to the state provides benchmarks for wellness for each school district. And so we connect what's going on at different building levels with their different projects and initiatives and activities and make sure that we're meeting the state's benchmarks there. And we either take actions or make suggestions or motions to try and beef up any areas that we're falling short on. But just a few of the areas to give you an idea are related to nutrition, physical activity, emotional wellness. A big one is hydration. water. I don't know how we all got by without water when we were growing up. So just to give everybody a little bit of an idea of some of the benchmarks that the state brings down to the district in terms of what we're doing for outreach within the community and within our students and also for our employees as well. So more to follow after our meeting on Wednesday.
Nice. And when is the Race of the Savages? Because it's
Run of the Savages is this Saturday at Pollard School.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Early registration would be best, which is available online. You can go to the district website, you can go to the Pollard School website, you can go to the, there's a Facebook page for Run of the Savages. You get a lower rate if you register now. There is registration available on Saturday morning. The weather's looking groovy. A really good day for running. I know there's a lot of organizations at the high school that are going to be coming as teams and community and things of that nature. And I will be there DJing the finish line like I have for the last several years. So if you want to party down and come do that, it's a great cause. And all of the money gets donated to the Dana-Farber for cancer
And
research.
some people might just walk.
And you can
That is
walk, you can run, you
totally
can
okay.
skip. We've had people gallop across the finish line. We've had people dance. We've had people jump across the finish line. We're in support of however you want to participate, but come down. It's a really good cause. But that's just one really great wellness initiative that happens in the district on top of all of the amazing other things that we hear too. So we'll be bringing back some of those ideas after our meeting.
Awesome, thank you. Safety, we've not met since last board meeting, but I believe, do we meet next week or the week after? It's next week. So again, nothing with that. And then not related to a committee, but me and Shauna had the chance to go visit Pollard School last week, I believe.
Yep.
And just look at, big talk has been on crowdedness of some of the, classrooms and everything. And so it was good for us to see and really see the impacts and some teachers who've gotten really creative in creating space and making sure that to the best of their ability, they're able to accommodate as many kids as they can. But other than that, I don't have anything else. Mark?
No, ma'am.
Dawn?
No, good, thank you.
Jack?
Tried to have a couple of committee meetings. We weren't able to accomplish them. I went to do a joint CIP construction committee. As I've been saying since probably September or August of last year, I wanted to put some forth. I felt as though we should have had every possible thing on the table. We should have budget numbers for them. And then in March, we should have put everything out to bid. So when the end of the year comes, we have as many possibilities and many opportunities as possible to do what was in the best interest of the district. And unfortunately, we weren't able to have those committee meetings.
Thank you. Any other business? Jack?
Yeah, I just want to talk about oversight. One of the major jobs of this board is oversight. Is our responsibility for oversight. Oversight
from what?
Oversight of the operations of the district, right? We oversee the superintendent's stuff. We oversee safety. All our committees are basically policies or another way that we conduct oversight. Oversight is not easy. We have many people that we deal with that are friends, that we respect, and we have to have these direct relationships. And sometimes the lines get blurred relative to our responsibilities in making good business decisions. And if you wanted to have everyone like you, sell ice cream. This is not an easy job. It sometimes involves making tough decisions that people that you have that oversight over don't agree with. So I just, I took a couple college courses on organizational development behavior. One of the first things they made you watch was the movie 12 O'Clock High with Gregory Peck. I've discussed this with Justin. It's about professional distancing. When I come here to get the job done. And it talked about these commanders that used to have to send their young men up in the sky, knowing only half of them would come back, and some of them had clouded their decisions. We have oversight responsibility, and we're representative government. That's what this board is about. I don't answer to the board member. We don't answer to each other. We answer to our constituents, and as far as I'm concerned, the kids of the 4 towns of the district. And I don't want us to lose sight over them. So I'm stating that here and now, that our decisions can't be clouded because we trying to make everybody happy, because that's just not gonna happen. So, that's what I have to say about that.
Do we have any other business? Anybody else want to bring up any other business? Do we have any more dockets? Thank you so much. Doug? Luana? Doug Luana?
Monday, would it be possible for us to address the board together for a moment?
Are you Stephanie?
Yes.
Stephanie Doobie?
Stephanie Doobie? Just have to say your name for the record.
Thank you.
So you both, so you're using your time for right now as well, right? Okay, no worries. All right, go ahead and go. Floor is yours.
I'll be good. Thank you.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to mention one thing, and then I'll turn it over to you, Doug.
Okay.
Thank you. Stephanie Doobie, Danville, New Hampshire. I just wanted to mention, as was brought up at the beginning of the meeting, obviously there are some areas that need to be addressed within the district with respect to budgeting. And we have 2 towns out of the 4 towns that have been hit exponentially harder than the other 2 towns. Danville and Sandown being the 2 towns. So myself and, probably about a dozen other people, we organized a meeting on March 30th, which Doug was our facilitator. And I just want to mention that for those folks that are watching at home, in all 4 towns, that there is, we're going to be discussing ideas for tax relief, and that's going to be on the table. And I would suggest that folks take a look at our website, our Facebook page, Danville and Sandown Tax Impact Discussion Group. Thank you.
Okay, I didn't want to touch base on this right away, but to introduce myself, I come here, I told you what I'm all about, how my brain works. You need to understand, I don't know if you can give me this information now, but I'm used to the Massachusetts way of running the schools, not the New Hampshire way. But I'm told there's a fund called the unassigned fund, where monies are put that were not needed for their original place. The money wasn't spent down on an account, so it's moved over to there for later review. Is that what they call that, unassigned fund?
Fund balance.
Fund balance.
Designated fund balance.
Would anybody be able to tell me what's in that fund balance currently?
There's no way of us to be able to tell you currently, but right now this is just a time for you to speak and
Okay,
speak
I
your piece.
understand that.
But what I would
So-
what I would recommend, sir, is that you reach out to the SAU building, especially our Justin. Sorry, I haven't read it again, and he'd be able to give you further details about that.
So what, then, as I'm speaking, what we're looking for is some money to be returned to the communities. We're looking for the 2.1 million that was for a lease that's not being used in this fiscal year.
And it will be back to return back to you all.
That's coming back.
Absolutely. This board has always held that money, if it wasn't sent on the lease, it was going back.
You're gonna make a lot of people very happy. I appreciate that.
Facebook is gonna shut down now.
It might, and you know, that I can go back to my little log cabin and do what I came up north to do. I did not want to be in another school committee. I didn't want to attend another meeting. I've had the life of this. So, I said, if I have to get involved, I'm gonna bring it on.
Okay.
So thank you for informing us of the 2.1 million. We'll be looking forward to it because it will give us great relief. We are going to move forward against the articles of agreement, and we're going to do everything we can to change the structure of that so every community is counted in one vote.
Okay.
And that way, 3 towns have to agree on something before it's pushed onto the whole community. So that's just me being forthcoming to you, to tell you what direction I'm moving in with this group. We have it all. Thank you again.
Thank you for your time.
I'm very pleased to meet you. I expected to come here. Normally, when the first time I attend one of these, I get a lot of angry feedback. I usually get a superintendent that's staring me down. On the last 2 occasions, I joined the committee, and within 6 months, I have you committee members following me to my car, say, hey, I like the way you think.
You're checking your brake lines.
But I'm impressed with the superintendent. I like the way he speaks. I like the way he puts the students first. And I understand you're an interim. And if there's any way that you could hang on to him, I would fight for him. Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again briefly. I'd like to support the concept of the workshop amongst the board to study feasibility of the committees. The idea Mr. Krieger brought forth to meet with the community reps, et cetera, is a great idea. If these ideas were to happen, the public would be welcome in an effort to relay the sentiments of the community, work together with us. If this was to happen, I would be willing to put my name first on the list for the sign-up sheet. One last thing, I love the efforts put forth tonight to help the public's perception. It's a great starting point, and there's been a lot of transparency here tonight, and it's gonna go a long way with the community relations trying to work together. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Any other delegates? Okay, we are gonna be going into a non-public. Shauna, would you make that motion?
Yep, I'll make a motion to go into non-public under 91-A:3 subparagraph C.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second by Dawn. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Jack Sapia. Don Woodward. Mark Sherwood.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. We will not be back other than just to seal the minutes and adjourn. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah. See you later. Yeah.